Hey there, viewers. Last night, someone staying near Jay's mansion heard screams that didn't sound human. Now their story's leaking online, and what they saw under the house has people asking if the silence was ever real to begin with. Chapter 1. Dog Sitting on Cuesta Way. I wasn't supposed to be here long, maybe 4 nights max, just watching a neighbor's corgi while they finished some kind of smart home renovation. They said the glass panels on the deck weren't syncing with the wind sensors and they didn't trust a dog alone around all the exposed wiring. Whatever. I needed the money. They'd left a bottle of cold brew and a sheet of handwritten instructions stuck to the fridge with a Beyoncé magnet. I remember thinking it was funny. This tiny, orange-faced dog snoring under a print of Beyoncé from her Homecoming era. The house was nice, not crazy like the ones up the hill, but still expensive enough to feel weird walking around in socks. It had one of those long, narrow decks that jut out over the slope, lined with thin black railing and security cameras in every corner. The real prize was the view. 3 doors down and a couple 100 feet downhill sat the Carter's mansion. You couldn't see the whole thing, just bits of the rooftop, the edge of the helipad, and what looked like a glass dome nestled behind a grove of eucalyptus trees. At night, it glowed faint blue, like a pool underwater. I assumed it was one of their pools. I didn't know much about them beyond the usual stuff. I listened to their music, I'd seen them courtside at Lakers games. But being this close to where they actually lived, it felt strange, like walking past your teacher's car in a grocery store parking lot. There's something about seeing someone's real life, the boring stuff, that makes everything else a little less shiny. It was quiet up here. The kind of silence that only happens in places where everyone has triple pan glass and a private driveway. You could hear every leaf scrape across the deck, every car that didn't belong. The first night, I stood out there holding a cup of instant miso soup and watched the hills settle into darkness. The corgi, Peanut, sat by the glass door, staring at nothing. Then I felt it. It wasn't loud, more like pressure, a low vibration in the wood planks under my slippers. Just enough to rattle the metal spoon in my cup. Peanut tilted his head and let out this thin little whine, barely audible over the hum. I stepped closer to the railing and leaned over. The Carter property was lit in that weird bluish-white tone that makes everything look fake. A spotlight swept across the lawn, paused near the corner of one building, then moved on like it was scanning for movement. It felt automated, clinical. The light never wavered. I couldn't hear music or voices, just that deep, steady thrum, like a subwoofer turned too low to register as sound. It stopped around 2:00 a.m. I went inside, turned off the lights, and stared at the ceiling until my phone buzzed with a TikTok link from someone I barely knew. Nina, a girl I used to work with at the gelato shop in Echo Park. The video was shaky and dark. Caption said, Jay-Z house tunnels confirmed, Bayhive bunker, Cuesta Way. The footage showed what looked like a loading dock. There were 2 guys in white jumpsuits pushing a metal cart stacked with crates. The camera zoomed in on a sign that read Service Access C-Sub Level 2. You couldn't tell what city it was in, but the comments were full of people swearing it matched the layout of Jay-Z's mansion in Bel Air. I didn't take it seriously. It looked like every other fake celebrity expose on TikTok. Low effort, bad lighting, and a title designed to get clicks. But the hashtag stuck in my head. Bayhive bunker. The next morning, I took Peanut for a walk down the hill. He refused to go anywhere near the slope closest to the Carter property. He dug in his heels, ears pinned back. I figured it was a skunk or coyote. We looped around instead, past the delivery truck parked with its hazard lights on. A guy in his early 20s was unloading what looked like steel gas canisters. Is this Cuesta? He asked me, squinting his phone. 129 something? I told him he was 2 houses off. He nodded toward the canisters. You wouldn't believe where this stuff's going. Liquid nitrogen? Whole rack of them. No restaurant would even need this much. I asked who signed for it. Some guy in black gloves. Didn't talk, just pointed me toward the back gate. He opened his Maps app and scrolled to a saved TikTok. This the one with the glass tunnel under the pool? Bro, watch this. Service elevator goes down like 3 stories. One of those soundproof ones too. No echo, no reverb, creepy. I handed the leash to Peanut, pretending I wasn't interested, and watched the video. It was only 15 seconds long, shot at night. You could see the elevator descend, all chrome and blue lights. The caption said, "This ain't no wine cellar." That night, I stayed out on the deck longer. The smell of eucalyptus was heavier after sundown, especially near the glass railing. The trees rattled against each other like bones. Every time I turned toward the Carter house, I felt like something was watching me back. Not a person, just a pressure. The same thrum from the night before returned, pulsing under my feet like a warning. Then came the delivery. At exactly 11 o'clock, I watched a white unmarked truck roll down the hill and pull into the Carter driveway. It didn't reverse or flash its lights, it just stopped. Two men stepped out, both wearing dark uniforms with no logos. They opened the back, and I swear I saw a wooden crate with old-style stenciling. The side read, La Voix Acoustique, Paris, 1899. The letters were faded and the wood looked warped with age. One of the men pulled out a small device and scanned something on the crate. Then he pointed toward the service path and they wheeled it out of view. I reached for my phone and started recording. Nothing but silence. No audio, not even the sound of me breathing. I stopped the video and played it back, static, no labels, just a black screen with the timestamp. I tried again, same thing. I turned to go inside and found Peanut trembling under the table. His fur was standing up. I bent down to pick him up and saw that my smartwatch had started recording a voice memo without me touching it. When I hit stop, the file name read, 2:23 a.m. I hadn't even said that out loud. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, a different truck arrived. This one had an oxygen hazard label and a tank strapped to the back. The driver knocked on the Carter gate, then quickly turned away as it opened. I never saw who answered. By the third night, the air around the deck felt charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. I stepped out with my coffee and noticed that one of the Carter windows, far left, second story, was pulsing with soft, rhythmic light. It didn't flicker, it wasn't strobing. It was breathing. I told myself it was just some high-end lighting system, but Peanut wouldn't stop pacing. He kept barking at the corner of the deck where nothing was moving. His nails clicked against the wood over and over until I finally brought him inside. I checked TikTok again, the same hashtags were still trending. Bayhive bunker. Jay-Z house arrayed. Cuesta Way elevator. One video showed a side-by-side of blueprints from the original property and a supposed revised version that had an entire underground level listed as private archive. Another claimed the Carters had refinanced their home twice in 2025, including a second mortgage of $57 million. The comments were full of theories. Why would two billionaires need a mortgage at all? Bet they're building a lab under there. Nah, that's where they keep the backups. I didn't know what they meant by backups, but something about it stuck with me. That night, the corgi disappeared for almost 15 minutes. I found him trembling in the kitchen, staring at the floor, vent like it was whispering to him. I could hear nothing. It's not yet, but something was coming. Chapter 2, the metallic screams. The night started quiet, like all the others. Peanut was curled up under the coffee table, his little body twitching as he dreamed. I was sitting on the couch in the dark, phone in one hand, holding a mug of peppermint tea in the other. The deck lights were off and the only glow in the house came from the street lamp just outside the window. I didn't feel like turning anything else on. I'd barely slept the night before, and everything had been getting stranger. Around 11:30 p.m., I cracked the sliding door open to let in some air. The scent of eucalyptus came in strong, sharp, and green with just a trace of smoke, like someone had lit incense somewhere down the hill. The trees were still. No wind, no birds, just the familiar quiet hum in the planks beneath my feet, like some machine far away had powered up again. I didn't even realize I'd walked out onto the deck until I looked down and saw my toes against the glass railing. The Carter house was almost completely dark tonight. Only a faint strip of light glowed beneath the rooftop line, like there was something just below the surface, waiting. I stared at it for a while, not even blinking. Then, like someone had flipped a switch, every bird in the canyon launched into the air. A wall of flapping wings and shrieking feathers exploded from the trees. The corgi shot up behind me and began barking wildly. I turned just in time to see a giant white bird, maybe an owl, fly so low overhead that I felt its wing graze the back of my neck. And then the screaming started. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal either. It was metal, like someone had run a bow across a rusted cello string the size of a bridge. It came in waves, screeching up the hill in layers, almost like it was coming through pipes or being filtered through something. The pitch kept changing, too fast, too sharp, almost patterned. Peanut lost his mind. He backed into the corner of the living room and barked nonstop, spinning in circles like the sound was hitting him from every direction. I slammed the glass door shut and still heard it vibrating through the walls, through my teeth. I dropped my tea. The mug didn't even shatter. It just bounced, foam sloshing onto the tile. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. LAPD emergency, the voice said. Calm, almost too calm. I gave him the address, told him I was hearing a noise, something loud, unnatural, possibly coming from the Carter property. Silence. Then we don't have any active calls in that area. I asked if they could send someone. Ma'am, there's no reported incident. We'll note it, but unless there's a visible emergency or threat. The line clicked. Just like that, they were gone. I checked the time, 11:59. The noise went on for 6 more minutes. Then, nothing. Not even bird song. The next morning, I didn't know what to think. I kept expecting someone to knock on the door, maybe a cop or a neighbor or someone from animal control asking questions, but nobody came. The street was normal. A couple of Teslas rolled by. A gardener trimmed hedges near the mailbox. Peanut refused to leave the house, tail tucked low and ears flat against his head. I had to drag him to the corner so he'd pee, and even then he kept looking over his shoulder like something was watching him. I went back inside and checked my phone. And there it was. Jay-Z house raid, 2025. Metallic screams. But later audio leak, thousands of posts. Most of them were just reactions, people reposting the same shaky clip of blue lights reflecting off some house windows, mixed with stock footage of goats, fire, and snippets from Jay-Z's On to the Next One video, the one where he's surrounded by smoke and goat skulls and flashes of red paint. People were stitching the video with pictures of weird ancient instruments, calling it sonic ritual evidence. Someone uploaded a slowed down version of the audio, claiming they could hear names buried in the static. One comment, read, pause at 0:23. You hear the word Beyonce clear as day. She's summoning something. Another one said, auto raid, a containment failure. And then this one, they're not screams. It's a tone test. They're tuning the room. I didn't know what any of it meant, but my stomach was in knots. I checked the local blotter, nothing. No calls reported to this block, no noise complaints, not even a mention of the Carter property. It was like nothing happened, like the canyon had swallowed the whole night whole. Except my smartwatch remembered. Every time I opened the sliding door, it switched itself into voice memo mode. I never touched the button. It would just blink once, record exactly 3 seconds of audio, then stop. When I played it back, it was always the same, static, deep, quiet static, like a storm buried underwater. And this time the file name was different. Instead of a date or a default title, it said, Scream_recording_3233, IMM Wake. The hairs on my arms rose. I didn't name the file. I didn't even speak. There was no way the watch could have known what time the sound had hit the hardest. But it did. That afternoon, I searched for more posts. One niche blog, some offshoot of a true crime YouTube channel, claimed they'd seen police cruisers swarm Cuesta Way around midnight. They had no pictures, no sources, just a paragraph titled, Bel Air Disturbance Possibly Involving Jay-Z Residents. I screenshotted it. It was gone within the hour. Peanut still wouldn't go near the glass door. He paced in tight circles by the couch, occasionally letting out this low grumble that didn't even sound like a bark. Just warning. I made toast, didn't eat it, left the crust on the plate for 2 hours. Around 3:00 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Nina again, same girl from the gelato shop. She DM'd me a video. Caption, did they open the bunker? The clip was a close-up of one of the Carter Mansion's retaining walls. It showed a thin seam opening in the middle of the concrete, almost like an elevator door. A hand came out holding what looked like a cloth bag. No face, no body, just the hand, pale and gloved, vanishing into the gap. I messaged her, where is this from? She replied, original was deleted. This is a repost. Bro, don't watch it with earbuds. I ignored her and hit play again. Same moment. This time, I noticed the glitch. Right before the clip ends, the screen flickers just for a frame or two. You see a shadow, something hunched, something twitching like it's caught in a strobe. And then it's gone. And when the video ends, the phone won't let me close it. The screen dims, The flashlight on the back turns on by itself. And for a moment, I hear it again. That same sound, that same metal scream buried inside my phone speaker like it's alive in there. Peanut runs into the hallway and hides behind the laundry basket. I don't sleep that night either. Around midnight, I sit on the couch with all the lights off. The deck is silent, the canyon is empty. But I don't feel alone. I haven't felt alone since the first time I heard the scream. And I know, something's still out there. Waiting, listening, recording. Chapter 3, The Blue Glow Under the Hill. By the fourth night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I tried to go back to normal, really. Watch a couple cooking videos, clean the bathroom, took Peanut to the bottom of the hill and back, though he still wouldn't walk, within sniffing distance of the Carter property. I even made eggs, but none of it stuck. Every time I blinked, I saw that cobalt light again. Every time I paused a video, I thought I heard that screech echoing somewhere beneath the silence. Something was happening under that house, I just didn't know what yet. And so, around 10:15 p.m., I put on my old running shoes, filled a water bottle, and told Peanut I'd be back soon. He didn't even bark, just watched me from the rug with those wide, glassy eyes. Like he already knew I wouldn't come back the same. There's a fire cess road that cuts behind the Cuesta properties. Thin dirt path mostly used by maintenance trucks and surveyors. My neighbor had pointed it out to me once during a barbecue, said it connected to some of the old 1960S drainage systems back when the canyon used to flood. I figured it would give me a clear line of sight behind the Carter estate. The air felt heavy that night, damp, but not quite humid, the kind of weather that sticks to your skin. The trees rustled like they were whispering. Everything else was silent. I kept walking along the slope, sneakers crunching loose gravel and dead twigs. After 10 minutes, the land started to change. The soil was packed tighter, less weeds, more metal. Concrete pads jutted out from the hillside like old scars, half covered by ivy, but still visible if you looked. One of them had a rusted electrical box nailed to it, and what looked like bolt holes, like something heavy used to be installed there. I kept going, another slab, then another. One was still warm to the touch. That's when I heard the hum again. Low at first, not sound, pressure. It vibrated up through the ground and into the soles of my feet like a subway line far below. My teeth buzzed. I followed it, ducking under a eucalyptus branch, then crouched behind a ridge of rock that overlooked a steep grade. And there it was. A service bay door built right into the hill. No driveway, no signage. Just a flat gray panel that began to slide open with a hiss so soft it almost sounded like breathing. As it opened, a wave of bright blue light spilled out. Not LED white, not daylight. It was deeper, azure, the color of flame from a welding torch or the glow of an aquarium at night. I crouched lower, heart pounding, watching from the shadows. Two men in black jumpsuits stepped out, each pushing a wheeled cart. One cart carried a plastic bin full of VR headsets, sleek, matte black, nothing like the bulky ones you'd see at Best Buy. The other cart had several rods with lights at the tips, blinking in a soft, synchronized rhythm. I couldn't tell if it was red or purple. Every blink landed in time with the others. Perfect, like a metronome for something you couldn't hear. Workers moved silently, no talking. One of them bent over to scan a wristband against the wall panel. The blue light flickered, then intensified, pouring deeper into the shaft. I tried to film it, but my phone froze. No response, just a flashing red warning on the screen. Recording error, microphone conflict. Before I could process what that meant, one of the workers dropped something. It hit the concrete with a soft clink and slid toward the edge of the clearing. Black key card. I waited. Neither of them noticed. They rolled the carts into the bay and disappeared down the shaft. The door didn't close. I waited 5 more seconds, then crawled over the ridge, staying low. I picked up the cart. Front side was smooth, no logo, just a subtle dark gloss, but on the back in tiny gold lettering, ROC Nation, Access Level 7. And underneath, scratched into the plastic with what looked like a knife, 323. Same time, same number, again. I slipped the card into my hoodie pocket and backed away. That's when I saw the old man. He came out of nowhere, stood maybe 20 feet away, greasy hair, worn khakis, white undershirt stained with something dark, looked like he hadn't shaved in days. He wasn't one of the workers, didn't move like them. He looked forgotten. Shouldn't be up here, he muttered, not like a threat, just a warning. I froze. He looked past me toward the bay and added, "Tell her she can't keep them all quiet." "What?" I asked. But before he could repeat it, another worker appeared, this one taller, wearing gloves and sunglasses even at night. He grabbed the old man by the arm and led him back inside. The blue light dimmed and the door began to slide shut behind them. I didn't move. I waited until I couldn't see any more light, any more shadows, nothing. Just that hum still buzzing in my teeth. I stumbled back along the fire road, every twig snap sounding like a gunshot. When I finally reached the main road, I realized I'd been holding the key card so tightly that it had left an imprint in my palm. That night, I didn't go back inside right away. Instead, I sat on the deck with Peanut curled up beside me and opened TikTok. The top video was a drone flyover posted from a burner account. Caption said, "Hidden floor beneath the rooftop pool, look at the shadow." It showed the Carter property from above. Midday, sun bright, pool glistening like something out of a car commercial. But if you looked close, you could see the shape of something beneath the water. A square, darker than the rest, like a hatch. The video zoomed in, circled it with red, and paused. The comments were full of people claiming it was an entrance point, some kind of bioacoustic chamber, whatever that meant. Another user said, $750,000 0 cents remodel wasn't for aesthetics. They built down, not up. Remember the delivery trucks, the crates, the nitrogen tanks, the LED rods. All of it made sense now. They weren't renovating. They were preparing. I pulled out the key card and ran my thumb along the scratch number 323. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't even know if it still worked. But I knew I was going to use it. And I knew I was going back. Whatever was under that house, whatever was glowing and humming and whispering to the corgi in the middle of the night, it wasn't done. It hadn't even started. Chapter 4, the service tunnel. I waited until the next night. I knew if I gave myself too long, I'd talk myself out of it. Say it was just my imagination or a hallucination or a dream with really good sound design. But it wasn't. By 10:30, I was back on the fire road with the stolen key card in my pocket and a flashlight taped with gauze so the beam wouldn't travel far. I'd worn all black, not that I had some spy outfit, but I layered a hoodie over black leggings and tied my hair back tight. I'd Googled maps of the Cuesta slope and found a dry weather runoff culvert that ran downhill toward the Carter property. It looked narrow, but maybe not impossible. If I could crawl through it, I'd end up behind the retaining wall. The flashlight flickered once when I stepped inside. The tunnel was only about 4 feet tall. I had to crouch low and duck walk through ankle-high dust, and the kind of cold that settles into your fingernails. The air smelled like wet metal and eucalyptus mulch. After 5 minutes, I hit a grate. It was rusted and half bent at the edges, like someone had tried to force it open before. I pulled with both hands. It groaned, then gave. Outside, the service wall loomed above me. Plain gray concrete, cracked slightly near the base. To the right was the maintenance hatch. No keypad. Just a black rectangle the size of a credit card reader. I pulled out the Rock Nation card and held it to the panel. Then a click. The hatch swung open an inch. I stepped inside. The freight platform was old, industrial, the kind of thing you'd see in a 1980s factory basement. The floor was grated steel, the railings covered in chipped yellow paint. It smelled like ozone and concrete dust. A light above me turned on with a slow hum, and the platform began to descend. It didn't feel like an elevator. There were no walls, no music, just an open cage slowly lowering into a shaft that looked carved out of solid stone. The platform dropped past a series of horizontal steel beams, each marked with the floor code, L1, L2, B1, B2, B3, and then nothing. No more labels. The walls turned smooth, polished. It felt like going down into a museum vault or a tomb. I lost track of how far I went. When the platform stopped, it did so without a sound, just a soft bump, like settling into place. A door slid open to reveal a hallway so quiet I thought I'd gone deaf. But when I stepped off the platform and walked forward, I heard my footstep echo. And then I heard it again. Not from behind, not from around a corner, just twice. The hallway was lined with triangular black foam panels, each one angled slightly differently, like an anechoic chamber but larger, colder. The ceiling stretched higher than it should have, considering I was underground, and every single step I took came back to me twice. like two overlapping ghosts trying to keep pace. I kept walking. The corridor opened into a room that looked like a gymnasium built by someone who had never seen one. Bleachers lined three sides of the room, made from curved steel that glowed faintly from beneath. The center space was marked with concentric circles in dull coppery red. In those bleachers sat children, maybe 20 of them, all wearing matching gray uniforms, all strapped into headsets that wrapped completely around their eyes like blindfolds. The headsets had thin wires that ran down their necks and disappeared into their clothing. But they weren't moving, except their mouths. Every single one of them was mouthing something, perfectly synchronized except for the rhythm. It wasn't 4/4 time. It wasn't even 3/4. The pattern fell off, unbalanced. 7 beats, then a pause. 7 again. Each syllable they formed was silent, yet felt heavy, like I could hear it inside my own ribcage. I stepped closer and felt my ears pop. The air pressure shifted. I blinked, and for a moment I thought I saw a ripple in the air, like heat rising from pavement. Above the children was a screen. It displayed a rotating 3D globe covered in flickering red and blue lights. Some were grouped in major cities, New York, London, Seoul. Others blinked alone in places I'd never heard of. In the top left corner, 2 categories flashed. Fans, 3,456,221,098. Not thanked, 1,137,009. I don't know what it meant, but every time one of the kids blinked behind their headset, a red light would change to blue, turned around and nearly screamed. A wall I hadn't seen before lit up with moving waveforms, graphs, audio fingerprints. One was labeled carrier tone 323 IM, another read exposure duration 0 o'clock and 9.1 seconds, safe limit. Below that, something in bold red font, do not exceed 528 hertz without medical staff present. That's when I realized what I was hearing. The metallic screams. They weren't voices. They were tones. Test tones, ultrasonic, too high for normal playback, but enough to affect the brain. The headset wires weren't just feeding content, they were regulating exposure, measuring reactions. Like my stomach flipped. I stepped forward again and suddenly felt it. A pressure deep inside my skull, behind the eyes. Like a headache forming from the inside out. I touched my ear, my finger came away with blood. A thin trickle from the inside of my canal. I backed up, the tone stopped. It was just like that. No announcement, no fade out, silence. I turned to leave, but one of the children moved. She lifted her hand slowly and pulled off the headset. Her eyes locked with mine, pale green, unblinking. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, voice flat. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She stood. "It only hurts if you don't sing back." She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a tiny plastic case. She walked forward, slow like she was moving underwater, and placed it in my hand. Inside was a flash drive. Black, no markings. Then she turned and sat back down, replaced her headset, began mouthing again. 7 syllables, pause, 7 syllables, pause. I looked back at the frequency map. One of the red lights on the globe blinked out, and another one right over Los Angeles turned blue. I didn't know what any of it meant, but I knew I couldn't stay here. Not if I wanted to hear anything ever again. Chapter 5. The Neuro Chorus. I didn't sleep. I could. I locked the door behind me, triple-checked the windows, and kept every light in the house off except the one over the kitchen sink. Peanut didn't leave my side. His whole body trembled every time the fridge kicked on. I sat at the dining table with the flash drive in my hand. Just holding it made my fingertips buzz. Not pain exactly, more like my nerves were remembering something they hadn't felt yet. I plugged it into my laptop. The screen didn't flash, no folders popped up. Just a single window, plain black background with one white button in the center. Begin playback. I hovered over it, heart pounding. Clicked. The screen blinked once, then split into 2 panels. On the left, a document titled, "The Blue Secret / Public Key Blockchain Ledger. Authorized Transmission 7/IV 323. On the right, a spreadsheet of names, hundreds of them. Some were familiar, actors, influencers, politicians. Others I had to Google. They all had one thing in common. Each one was marked either thanked or not thanked. The ones marked not thanked, I remembered their headlines. One had disappeared off social media 6 months ago, said she was taking a break, never came back. Another had all his TikToks removed the same week he tweeted something sarcastic about Beyonce. A fitness influencer who'd once called Blue Ivy spoiled on a podcast, her last post was a blackout selfie with the caption, "No voice today, not safe yet." She hadn't updated since. I scrolled down, past rows of gray and red cells, and found the last name added, mine. Marked unconfirmed. Haha, shut the document. The other panel on the screen shifted. A series of PDF files popped up, labeled Carrywave 323, Mindshare Cycle, Exposure Compliance, Phase 2 Funding, RockNat 528 Hz Pre-Calibration, Budget Memo, Mortgage Allocation Summary. I opened the budget file. It was a scanned image of a financial spreadsheet. High-level, corporate, but the numbers were unmistakable. The Carters had pooled a $57 million second mortgage to fund something labeled Phase 2 Intonation Upgrade. The timeline matched the last refinance on their Bel Air property. Columns showed equipment costs, child harmonics personnel, soundproofing, insulation, and something called the Helmholtz core. There were references to audio latency correction, neuro-resonance modeling, and predictive tone feedback. I didn't understand most of the technical jargon, but I did understand what it meant. The screaming, the kids, the silence that bled into my bones. It was all part of something bigger, not a concert, not an experiment, a broadcast. The screen blinked again. 3:19 a.m. EM. Again, 3:22 a.m. The window appeared, live room sync activated. I didn't click it. I didn't need to. My webcam lit up anyway. The laptop speakers emitted a low, steady hum, too low to be heard, but I felt it. The dining room lights dimmed. And then 3:23 a.m. The screen flooded with light. It was a live feed. Somewhere underground, maybe the same place I had just escaped, engineers wheeled a massive chrome orb into the center of the choir room. It looked like a giant silver egg with tiny slits etched across its surface. Wires snaked from its base to every corner of the room. Children stood from the bleachers. All of them wore the same headsets. All of them moved in sync. A group of engineers stepped forward, each wearing black robes with goat skulls printed across the back. Not masks, just screen-printed fabric like tour merch. One of them held a device that pulsed with a tiny red light. He raised it toward the orb and the humming shifted, sharper, faster. Then Jay-Z stepped into the room. Not in a rush, not with drama. He just walked in, nodded once toward the children, and stood still. They began to hum. The four-note motif, clean, measured. The orb pulsed in rhythm. Each note echoed longer than the last. And then the modulation began. The notes bent, warped, turned metallic. That sound, the same one from the canyon. The same one that vibrated the corgi. The one that made birds fall silent and my ears bleed. I wanted to cover my ears, but I couldn't move. My phone, lying face up on the table, began to record. But no sound playback, just silence. I turned my head, but my body didn't follow. It was like the tones had separated my thoughts from my muscles. The only thing I could feel anymore was vibration. My bones rang like tuning forks. My mind filled with static. And in that static, I saw things. Words scrolling across the dining room wall like ticker tape. 2025. Lao Silat R. Satterthwaite. Settlement reached. Cattle ownership unchallenged. Multiple witnesses unwilling to testify. No record found. Names flickered. Diddy, Ramir, Cassie, the girl from the lawsuit, the bodyguard, that one TikTok psychic who disappeared after saying she heard a voice that didn't belong to her own. I realized what I was seeing wasn't a glitch. It was a motive. They weren't just silencing critics, they were erasing patterns, tuning the narrative to one clear, controlled signal. They weren't making music. They were using people as speakers. And the feed glitched. The room on my screen shifted. A close-up of one of the children, the girl from before, whom she lifted her headset, looked straight into the camera. "I told you," she whispered. "It only hurts if you don't sing back." Her name blinked across the corner of the screen. A child, too. alias IV proxy _ friend mode. I stared at her. You're not real, I whispered. She smiled. Neither are they. And then the screen cut to black. The humming stopped. My lights flickered on. My phone beeped. The recording had saved. But when I played it back, again, silence. Not even static. Just a flat line. I stare at the screen, sweating through my shirt, heartbeat louder than anything I'd ever heard. And then I noticed something on my laptop. A new file, auto-saved to my desktop. Thank you _delays 0. What? I didn't open it. I didn't want to know what sound was inside. Because whatever was humming inside me now, it hadn't stopped. Chapter 6, Feedback Loop. I should have left. After the drive, after the feed, after hearing my own bones vibrate from a signal I couldn't play back, I should have walked away. But something was wrong with me. I could feel it. Even in the silence, I could hear it. That night, I went back. I didn't pack anything except a Rock Nation key card, a flashlight, and one of those orange foam earplugs from the neighbor's drawer. Just one. I couldn't find the other. The covert tunnel felt shorter this time, or maybe my sense of time was broken. I crawled through it fast, barely feeling the dust scrape across my palms. The hum started again as soon as I hit the concrete pad near the service wall. It didn't vibrate the same way as before. It was jagged now, crooked, as if the signal was warped or feeding back into itself. I swiped the card, the door opened, the lift platform was waiting, same as last time. No welcome message, no lights, just open steel and the sense that someone knew I was coming. The descent took longer. Somewhere between levels, the pitch of the hum changed. Lower, like a throat clearing. I clenched my jaw, and something inside my molars popped. My gums started bleeding. I tasted iron. When the platform stopped, I didn't recognize the floor. It wasn't the same corridor. It was darker. The walls were matte black, pulsing faintly with tiny green dots that blinked like waiting cursors. I stepped forward and immediately caught myself on the wall. The floor was slick with condensation, not water, something thicker. My fingers came away tacky. Down the hall, a security light blinked on and froze. Voices. 2 of them speaking in quick, clipped phrases. They were coming closer. I ducked behind a low panel and waited. Footsteps passed, boots, heavy. One of the voices spoke into a headset. Room 4 oscillating again, ramp to 432 for stabilization. Pause. Then, Helmholtz hit 528 feedback loop possible. Route all frequencies through ceiling dampers. I didn't understand what most of that meant, but I knew what a feedback loop was. Like signals fighting each other until the whole system collapses. When the voices faded, I moved. Took a left down a side hall and found myself back in the choir room. This time, everything was lit up like a concert set. Cables dangled from the ceiling, connected to massive black boxes, stacked 3 high along the walls. Screens flickered with graphs and sliders, each labeled with frequencies and harmonics I'd never heard of. In the center, the Helmholtz sphere pulsed again. Not steady like before, it twitched. I wobbled. A deep warble echoed from its core, layered with a softer tone riding just underneath. 432 hertz. The so-called healing frequency. The one conspiracy theorist said calm the body, connected the spirit, unlock nature. Then came the other tone. 528 hertz. The one people claimed could repair the one tied to stories of spiritual rebirth, miracle cures, consciousness resets. Now both tones were playing at once, and the children were shaking. Their bodies rocked forward and back in their seats. One kid clutched his stomach and vomited onto the floor. Another began to cry, soundless under the headset, but none of them stopped mouthing the 4-note motif. The girl choir child too had taken off her headset again. Her eyes met mine. No surprise, just a kind of quiet sadness. She mouthed something I couldn't hear and pointed behind me. I turned. 2 guards. One of them had a taser. The other held something larger, some kind of ultrasonic stun gun. They shouted something, but I couldn't make it out. The tones were too loud. I ran. I ducked under a cable, leapt over one of the kids who had fallen off their seat and slammed through a side door. The hallway curved into a stairwell barely wide enough to run. My feet pounded metal steps 2 at a time, lungs burning, heartbeat sinking with the rising tones. The higher I climbed, the worse it got. The two frequencies clashed. My nose started bleeding. The wall shimmered like heat waves. I gagged halfway up, dropped the flashlight, and kept going in the dark. At the top, a hatch opened automatically. I stumbled out into bright, chlorinated air. An indoor pool, glowing electric blue. I knew the space from real estate photos. I'd seen it in articles bragging about the mansion's aquatic luxury wing, a pool with mood-responsive LED lighting and bulletproof skylights that sealed for privacy. It looked serene online. Now, it looked like a containment chamber. The water pulsed with deep waves, not from swimmers, but from sound. Each ripple shimmered in sync with the tones rising from below. The glass ceiling above me began to close, two panels sliding together like eyelids shutting over a secret. Then I heard another tone, sharper, louder. Alarms, except they didn't blare, they sang. The sirens were tuned to the 432 hertz frequency. They didn't trigger panic, they triggered numbness. I felt my limbs go cold, my vision sharpen, my thoughts slowed. I had to fight the calm just to keep moving. Across the pool, a steel door glowed red. I ran toward it. It led to a lounge deck lined with smart glass that faced out toward the street. And there, outside, at the bottom of the hill, was a ride-share car. Its hazard lights blinked. A phone was mounted on the dash, live stream running. I could see the chat rolling in from here. Where is this? It looks fake. Why is it so quiet? No sound? I couldn't hear anything. I could. Only the people inside the mansion could feel what was happening. That's when I saw it. Mounted to the wall above the pool was a keypad. Old style, backlit, labeled, emergency choir lock override, 12 digits. Below it, open sequence releases all occupants. Warning, signal may transmit unfiltered. I knew what that meant. If I opened the door, I could get them out. All of them, the kids, the techs, even the girl. But I'd be unleashing the signal across the entire canyon, maybe further. The Helmholtz sphere was still running, and the tones were still rising. My head throbbed, my eyes watered, the glass under my feet pulsed with static. I reached for the keypad, hesitated. Peanut's name flashed in my mind. The kid who vomited, the girl who mouthed words I couldn't hear. The waveform labeled 323. A sound that only played inside your body. I had 10 seconds to decide. My fingers hovered over the keys, and the sphere screamed. Chapter 7, The Silent Raid. I hit the keypad. No code, just one button. Release. It lit up green for half a second. Then everything shifted. The lights went out, not dimmed, gone, like someone had unplugged the sky. The tones stopped mid-rise. Silence hit so fast it felt like falling. My stomach dropped. My ears rang with the absence of sound. Then a low chime sounded from below. Not a tone, not a hum. Just one note, flat, dead, then nothing. The pool water stilled. Its glow faded. But as I looked down into the glassy surface, I saw something that hadn't been there before. Faces. Not reflections. Not mine, dozens of them. Children, pressed to the other side of the water as if it were a window, not a pool. Their eyes open, not afraid, not screaming, just present. And then, all at once, they vanished. The ground beneath me shook. Far off, the first flash of red and blue light streaked up the canyon road. I ran back through the lounge, past the empty locker area and into the main atrium. From behind the bulletproof glass panels, I could see movement outside. Vehicles, unmarked, black. Armored vans with raised suspension and narrow tires. One of them had a retractable camera boom attached to its roof. Another had a satellite dish locked into place. A drone buzzed over the rooftop, recording from above. But no sirens. No sound at all. The LAPD had arrived silent. A moment later, the front gate burst open, hacked from the inside. Someone had sent a tip. I pulled out my phone, hand shaking, and checked the last message sent. It wasn't from me. It had been sent from my number to an encrypted address, time-stamped exactly 3:26 a.m. Subject live experiment, underage test subjects, audio threat ongoing. Attached, a location pin, footage from the Helmholtz sphere room, and a signed flag from the Rock Nation Drive, labeled Blue Sequence _proxy. My phone buzzed again. This time, a new message appeared. Thank you. Oh, sender. I looked up. The officers had spread out. Some carried EMF scanners, others held large rectangular devices that looked more like sound panels than weapons. Their vests bore no names. They moved too calmly, and then just behind them came the suits. Jay-Z's legal team, 4 of them, dressed in slate gray, each with a black leather folder and earpieces that shimmered under the lights. The first one held up a folder to the lead officer. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the top sheet. United States, Executive National Law, Subject, Audio Asset Containment Protocol, Classification National Security Tier 4. The officer hesitated, then nodded. The team began to back off. But it was already too late. The sphere hadn't stopped. Below ground, the structure began to hum again. Not with a tone, but with tension. I felt it through the glass beneath my feet like a wire pulled too tight, like a scream being held in someone's throat. And then, the girl, or a child too, she appeared in the doorway across the atrium, barefoot, headset gone, holding something small and silver in her hand. She didn't speak. She pressed her thumb to the center of the device and held it up. A new note emerged. Or not a note. An absence. Countertone 0 hertz. The sound of nothing. Not silence. The opposite of presence. The Helmholtz sphere imploded. I didn't see it directly, but I felt it. The pressure snapped inward. The walls shuddered. Cracks shot up the marble columns. The ground lurched. Tunnels began collapsing. Glass panels spider-webbed under my feet. Light fixtures exploded silently overhead. The officers shouted, "Mute panic," and turned toward the girl. She stood her ground. I ran to her, scooped her into my arms. She was lighter than she should have been. She didn't resist. Just whispered, "Sing it backwards, and it doesn't stick." I didn't ask what she meant. I just ran. Behind us, the tunnel entrance caved in. Dust filled the air. The sphere's casing burst upward through the floor before collapsing like a deflated balloon. The vibration stopped. Complete. When we burst through the front entrance and onto the lawn, dawn was just starting to break. Soil billowed upward in plumes. The grass folded over like it had been peeled from beneath. Drones still hovered, unsure whether to zoom in or pull back. The officers waved us down. Then one of the lawyers stepped forward and raised his hand. The broadcast cut. Everything froze. By the time reporters arrived, the scene had been sanitized. Footage stripped, screens blanked. One of the armored vans was already gone. No children in sight, no sphere, no girl, nothing left. They let me go. Didn't even question me. I wasn't arrested. I wasn't thanked. Just released. Back to the house. By the time I opened TikTok again, the top trending topic had already changed. False alarm. Swatting called targets Carter home. No threat found. DMZ headline, security flaw, Beyonce estate hit with midnight panic over rumored party prank. In every live stream from the night before, regions locked. Every comment about the blue light, the sphere, the frequencies, the hashtag neurocourse had been wiped completely, except one post. An image from an old drone shot filtered until the colors were almost inverted. The caption, "If silence is just the space between control, then who benefits when we don't listen?" No username, just a waveform, and at the end, the same number carved into the keycard. 323, Chapter 8, Echo Chamber. I came back to an apartment that didn't feel like mine anymore. Nothing looked different, but everything had changed. The walls held on to the silence too tightly, the outlets buzzed a little louder, the floorboards creaked like they were breathing. Peanut refused to step past the entryway. He just sat on the doormat, trembling, like he was waiting for someone else to come in. I dropped my bag and went straight to the kitchen. I'd even take off my shoes. I needed to hear music, anything to break the quiet. I asked the smart speaker to play Beyonce. It blinked, processed the request, then responded in its usual flat voice. Now playing unnamed track. No artist listed, no album, just a duration. B23? The speaker stayed lit, but no sound came out. Just nothing. No rhythm, no hum, no breath between notes. There's the silent track that crawled along the seconds like it was counting backwards. Peanut let out a low growl. I told the speaker to stop. It ignored me. I pulled the plug. Still in the silence, I could feel the hum returning, not in the walls, in my chest. I sat on the couch, pulled my phone from my pocket, and opened TikTok. Something was wrong. My drafts folder had filled itself. Dozens of videos, all time-stamped between 3 o'clock and 3:23 a.m. Each clip showed me sleeping, sometimes lying perfectly still, other times mouthing something silently, lips moving to a 4-note rhythm I couldn't remember learning. My expression stayed blank. My eyes, when they opened mid-dream, didn't look like mine. One video showed me sitting up straight and mouthing something longer. I turned the volume all the way up. Still silence. At the 30-second mark, the screen flickered once, then again. And for a split second, only knowing one frame, I could see a reflection in the mirror behind me. A girl, wire child, 2, standing in the corner, watching. I deleted the file. But when I checked again, it was back. Same timestamp, the same duration, same title, proxy_echo 0001. I powered the phone off, then plugged the flash drive back into my laptop. The screen stayed black for almost an hour. At 3:23 a.m., it flickered to life. No videos this time, no spreadsheets, no maps or frequencies, just a single line of text. Silence isn't safety, it's storage. No sender, no cursor, no way to close the window. Just those words, over and over again. I stared at the screen until sunrise. By the time I could think clearly, I had already made up my mind. I couldn't explain what I saw, what I heard, what I felt, but something had to be shared. So I took the file, the silent one, the track that played nothing, yet still made Peanut howl when it hit the 1-minute mark. I uploaded it. No name, no description. Just one question. Do you hear anything or feel it? And I let the comment section decide whether the screams ever really stopped, or if they were just waiting to echo back louder than before.